Hey there, folks! My name is Lizzy, and I'm a librarian here at the Stanton Public Library, and it is time for me to tell you about 5 new young adult books I think you're really going to enjoy. We're going to kick it off with the latest standalone kind of medieval kingdom-inspired fantasy from author Makia Lucier. And this one is called Year of the Reaper. And I like an epic fantasy series. I love kind of like ongoing series. But every once in a while, it's really nice to have a standalone that you can start and finish in one volume. And this one's not too long. It's maybe a tiny bit over 300 pages. The main character of Year of the Reaper is a young lord named Lord Cass, and he's an engineer's apprentice. And at the start of the story, there actually is this plague that sweeps over the land, and Cass ends up in this prison basically waiting to die. But he does not die. And the story continues a few years later when he returns back to his castle, being a lord. And he discovers that there's royalty there that's not supposed to be there, and everything is kind of changed. It's not how he left it. And then there's an assassination attempt on the queen who's there. It basically leads him down this huge rabbit hole, and he's there to solve a mystery. So if you like your fantasy with a little bit of kind of murder mystery or detective solving, try Year of the Reaper. At the End of Everything is the latest book by Marika Nijkamp. And Nijkamp is really good at writing stories where groups of teens that maybe are from different places or don't have anything in common are stuck together in some kind of tense survival situation. And this book is no different. I'm realizing now that the first 2 books I picked are actually both about plagues. So if you are not interested in reading about a plague, which is understandable, feel free to skip to the next book. This book is about a group of teenagers that are at the Hope Juvenile Treatment Center. They're there for various issues, mental health issues that they're having, and they feel like the world has forgotten about them. They feel very isolated and alone, and it's already kind of a tense situation for these kids. But one day, the guards literally leave, start acting kind of strangely, and they're left alone by themselves. And when they try to leave, there's actually army personnel there to tell them that there has been a worldwide plague. And so these kids are stuck there by themselves, and it becomes one of those stories that's a little bit suspenseful, where you don't know who to trust, who's in charge, who's your friend. So if you like stories that center on mental health and relationships, but with a dose of dystopian that might feel a little bit more relevant than we'd like it to, try At the End of Everything. Next up, we have The Year I Stopped Trying by Katie Heaney. This book is about a girl named Mary who's a junior in high school, who's a perfectionist and wants to succeed at everything perfectly. And one day she doesn't do an assignment or forgets an assignment and realizes, it's okay, I didn't burst into flames, and decides to stop trying as kind of an experiment. And so this is a little bit controversial, but it really is about school and pressure and anxiety. So if you kind of see yourself in that character and are interested in maybe reading about what happens to Mary, definitely pick this up. I don't love the cover, honestly, because it doesn't tell you much, but I will say that it's a good length. It's maybe a little bit over 200 pages, and the paragraph breaks are really good. So you can see there's a lot of space in between each paragraph, so it's a pretty quick read. All right, let's take a detour to a more chilling, horror-inspired place with the debut novel from Ginny Myers Sain called Dark and Shallow Lies. And this is kind of a gothic horror mystery. It takes place in Louisiana, and think swamps and kind of humid summers. And the main character is a girl named Gray, whose best friend recently disappeared. And even though the town where she lives is supposedly the psychic capital of the world, none of the psychics know where this girl went. And so the story is really about Greg trying to figure out what happened to her friend. Is her friend alive? Is it someone in town that's responsible, someone that she knows? But there's also an undercurrent of magic a little bit. So there's a little bit more of a mystical edge throughout, with things like psychics, but also with people that come out of the swamp and so on and so forth. But I really do love the first line of this book. Let me read it to you. The last time I saw my best friend, she called me a pathetic liar, and then she punched me in the mouth. And I love that first line tells me there's a lot going on that I still need to figure out. So if you want your mystery with a little bit of magic and some interesting characters from a new debut author, try Dark and Shallow Lies. All right, our last book for today, it's another debut. It's been getting great reviews. It's Not Here to Be Liked by Michelle Kwok. It's about a girl named Eliza who has been waiting to be the editor of her high school newspaper, and when it's time for people to vote, they actually vote for this boy instead, Len, who runs against her on a whim, has never been interested in the paper. And Eliza feels like people just voted for him because he's popular and good looking and because he's a boy. Eliza writes an article for the newspaper and inadvertently starts this huge feminist movement at her school. But to complicate things, Len and Eliza are working together on the paper and realize that they have feelings for each other. Does this have High School Musical vibes? A little bit. But it is a smart romance. It has some interesting commentary about leadership and gender roles. So I feel like this is going to be a really great read. And on the front cover, you can see Maureen Johnson's review. She calls it intoxicating, which is not a word you hear a lot for like contemporary realistic books. So get your hands on this one for sure. Thank you, friends, for joining me. If there's any kind of book or genre you'd like me to talk about next time, maybe more graphic novels, more nonfiction, more fantasy, less fantasy, let me know. We have all sorts of things at the library to choose from, so be sure to come and check it out yourself. I'll see you next month. Bye.